Miss Ledbetter here, and I've got Charlie here along with me. He's going to be my little trusty assistant. We're going to be making some sugar cookies. I've got the recipe up there for you to follow along. I'm going to be going step by step, and you can enjoy these also. This is some of the stuff you're going to need for your sugar cookies. To start off with, you need to get your cream cheese and your butter out of the refrigerator because it needs to soften. You need some sugar, 1 egg, baking powder, salt, almond extract, powdered sugar, all-purpose flour. And then for your icing, you're going to need some milk, vanilla extract. I had paste, I was out of extract. 1/3 of a cup of butter that was softened, some powdered sugar again, and you'll need some sprinkles, and if you want to get some food coloring out to do your icing, you can do that. You need some bowls, you need a cookie cutter of whatever shape you want to do, and a mixer. The first step is to put your softened butter and the softened cream cheese in a bowl. You're also going to add to that 1 egg, so Charlie's going to crack the egg and put it in there also. Go ahead and do that. While he's doing that, I'm going to add a teaspoon of almond extract. Be careful not to get any shells. Okay, looks like a good crack right there. And I've also got a cup of sugar that I'm going to add to all that.
Lots of sugar. Ah, this sugar smells so good.
To mix this all together until it's nice and fluffy. About 3 minutes to get it light and fluffy. Charlie's now going to add 1/2 cup of powdered sugar to this. Go ahead and pour that in, Charlie. I'm going to beat it in just a little bit more until it's all incorporated. Alright, so I have beat the wet ingredients. In another little bowl, we're going to add 2 3/4 cup of flour. Go ahead and put that in, Charlie.
This?
Uh-huh. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt also. And I'm going to just mix the dry ingredients up in here. And then we're going to mix them with the wet ingredients. So now we're going to mix the dry ingredients in with the wet ingredients as I beat it together. Charlie's going to pour some of the dry ingredients in, so I'm going to have him go ahead and do that. Yes, try not to spill it though. And take the bowl and just scoot it in there a little bit at a time. How about that? Do you like cooking, Charlie?
Yeah!
Do you like eating it more than you like cooking?
Yeah! Matt.
Okay.
Big.
So
I
now...
really want to look at really...
And sometimes that might happen too. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Alright, so I have mixed the dough. It looks a tad bit sticky to me. If you need to add more flour, you can. I might end up adding more flour in just a second if it's too sticky to roll out. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it on some parchment paper. That'll keep it from sticking too bad to a surface. Put that right there. And you can always set the rest to the side and just eat on it a little bit later if you want to. It's usually when my kids come to the kitchen is when it's time to lick the bowl. Alright, so I've got this going. I'm going to try my best to roll this out. Like I said, it looks a little bit sticky, but we're going to try it out and see what it does. I am going to sprinkle some flour on top and use my hands to kind of spread it out. I've also got a cup right here in case I need to roll it. I lost my rolling pin somewhere. So I don't want them too thin because I like thicker, softer cookies. If you make them too thin, they're going to be a little bit more crunchy. So I'm going for the softer feel. I'm going to try to roll it just a little bit with this, just to make it a little more even. So I'm going to spread a little more flour on here. I'm going to give it a good roll just to make it even. And then after this step, you are actually going to put this in the refrigerator, or I like to put mine in a freezer just to speed along the cooling process a little bit more. So before I cut them out, so it's nice and chilled. You have to have chilled dough in order for it to hold shape. So when I use my cookie cutter in a few minutes after it's nice and chilled, it'll stay a star shape after it's cooked instead of spreading out and not really looking like anything. So I'm going to put this in the freezer right now just for probably about 30 minutes to get it nice and chilled. I'll be back.
This is the best part.
Alright, so the next step after the dough has been chilling in the freezer for a little bit, mine's been in there probably about 30 minutes, is to cut out the sugar cookies. So I'm using this little star shape right here. And I have my other assistant Maggie with me today. She's going to help. And I'm going to transfer it over there to the other parchment paper on the baking sheet. Okay.
Here we go. I'm going to try to get as many cuts out of this dough as I can. So I'm going to try to do it really close together.
Alright, so I have cut all that I can out of this dough. So what you can do with the extra is put it all back in a ball and roll it out again and get as much as you can out of the next little batch right here. I'm going to put a little bit more flour down. And a little more on top. Roll it out. Try to use all the dough that I can. That way you can get as many cookies out of it as you can. Okay. And this should probably be my last little bit. Maybe. Those. And if your dough is getting a little bit softer, then stick the pan of your cookies back in the freezer for a few minutes before you bake them, so that way they still hold their shape. I will probably do that in just a few minutes here because my dough has gotten a little bit softer. I'm going to put it in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes on 350. And I'm going to let them get done, but I don't want them to get hardened or burned or anything like that. So set your timer for about 12, 13 minutes, check on them, and see if you can get them out. I always like mine a little more underdone than overdone, so I would go with the lower time. So I've gotten my cookies out of the oven now. They hold up together well, and that's how I know they're kind of done. This one that was a little thinner got a little bit burned on the edges right there. So that's why kind of make them nice and thick when you do them. I'm going to go ahead and put them on my cooling rack to cool. And while they're cooling, I'm going to get started on my icing that we're going to do on them. Alright, I've gotten my cookies out to cool. They're cooling. I'm going to make the frosting real quick. This is 1/3 of a cup of softened butter. I've got about 4 cups of powdered sugar right here, and I'm just gonna add all that. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna put the butter in. I'm gonna go ahead and put the extract in. It's a 1/2 teaspoon. I did a little bit much there. half of a teaspoon of the almond extract, about half a teaspoon of the vanilla, right there. I'm gonna mix this real fast, get that butter soaking real quick. Fourth of a cup of milk that I'm going to add a little bit at a time. Sure. And you also make a mess in the kitchen while you're at it. Cooking is not nice and neat. It's messy, but it's fun. Okay, add a little bit more. And also a little bit more milk. If it's too thick, you can always add a tad bit more milk at a time, but this might actually be perfect. I'm going to do a tad bit more milk just because I want it to be easily spreadable on the cookies. There we go. I'm going to add a tad bit of food coloring to give it a little bit of color. I'm going to do blue just because I think it's fun. Hopefully it'll make it like a light blue turquoisey color. Let's see. Beautiful. Okay, so I've got my blue icing. I'm going to grab a cookie just to show you how it's done. I'm going to get a knife. We're going to spread it on. Doesn't have to be perfect, as long as it tastes good. Okay, right there. If you have piping bags at home, you can use piping bags just to make it look a little bit nicer, but not necessary. Once you have this, you can add some sprinkles to it. And there are your sugar cookie quarantine cookies. Have fun!